Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us.
Hey everyone!
Hello, welcome. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
And if you notice, we have I don't know why I'm going this close to the mic, but it felt appropriate. We have a very special guest. Yeah, almost a bit sensual. I don't know. I apologize. We have a very special guest with us today. Emily, do you want to introduce yourself very briefly?
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm known on Instagram, Solar Sister Tarot, and I am a tarot reader. And I'm based in Manchester in the UK.
Yes, all the way from across the pond.
Yeah. So we got to know Emily on Instagram. That's how we all found each other, actually. The beauty of social media sometimes. And yeah, we just always kind of got along and meshed well. And
yeah, I met you through Amy.
Yeah.
And we've both have had readings with Emily.
Yes.
So we're just going to plug that right away. She's amazing.
Yes, we both have.
We're shamelessly plugging you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Which is fantastic. Actually, I didn't want to start off this way, but I think that I wanted to share with you, like I was listening back to the reading that you did for me.
And recording.
Oh yeah. Yes, of course I
love
do.
it.
It's on my computer screen. I can see it right now. And what was interesting, Emily, is I don't know if you remember, but you had said something romantic, like in the love department, was going to be happening September, October. Like it felt like September. I got engaged in September.
Oh my God, I didn't even put those pieces together. Oh my God. Wow.
That's really cool, eh?
Isn't it?
Yeah. So I thought that was really, really, really neat. Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love when people come back to me as well and tell me, months down the line, maybe it didn't resonate at the time. And sometimes I feel like I want to censor myself in that moment and go, oh no, is that wrong? Okay, forget about that. And then actually, it comes to fruition months later and it all starts to make sense. So
yeah,
that's my favorite part too. Like with doing mediumship or intuitive guidance is my favorite part too. And I always say like, oh, it's interesting you talked about censoring, because I, at the begining at least, and I guess it's a common thread between all readers, regardless of how you're reading, it's all kind of intuitive based, right? So I think it's a common human instinct to want to censor things. If in that moment you're like, I don't know how this makes sense for you, it's kind of like off the wall or it's random. So I used to sometimes filter those things too, but it's always those things I filter that like when I do that, it will come in constantly. Like it's like spirit will repeat it a few times. So I usually do say it by the end. I've gotten the habit of not censoring myself at all. I just say it like, I'm just like, it might not make sense in this moment. We don't have all the pieces. Perhaps this is something in the future, but I'm just going to say it anyways. And it always makes sense either like right away or in a few months or I've had people like 2 years later go, so well, it's just the way it is. And I think it's important to put that out there.
Yeah. You've just got to trust it if it comes in and it keeps coming back, like you say, like I'll get another card that's very, very similar and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, definitely have to say that now. So I'm trying not to do that anymore. And yeah, you've just given me the confirmation I needed to make sure I don't.
I think it's just an ongoing struggle with readers. Like like you mentioned, Amy, I think we all just we want to make sure that we're, giving the information and we're saying it in a way that we can. I mean, I'm not the most eloquent speaker. But we want to make sure that we're communicating the information in a way that it's meant to come out and it's meant to come through. And I think like for me, it's always been huge. Like everybody interprets language and interprets messages differently, right? And so sometimes I think it's human nature to be like, oh, I don't know if I should say it that way. But if it keeps coming up again, then then I think, you know.
I also find is like, especially if I'm doing mediumship and I'm connecting to somebody's loved one, you know, sometimes it will come through with like a swear word here or there, or it will be like much more tough love, you know, like very to the point. And I'm like, oh, but then I'm like, I'll just say it to them, like, okay, are you okay with swearing? Because I'm hearing this, or are you okay with tough love? And they're like, yeah, like give it to me straight. That's how I want it. And I'm like, okay, so it always makes sense how they give it to me, how the person needs to hear it. Not about me at all. Yeah.
No, or their loved one was similarly in life. And so that's why it's coming through that way. Yeah.
Do you find that too in tarot readings? Like sometimes it's a little bit more like gentler and sometimes it's like, so.
Yeah, sometimes. And I feel like I'm quite a gentle person anyway, so sometimes it is harder for me to give the tough love. But I think people do appreciate it actually, because a lot of the time I think that's probably what they need in that moment. So it's listening to whatever they need. But yeah, I do find it tough.
Do you have, sorry, Emily, didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have specific decks that you use? I'm just curious because I have one deck that I'm like, this is my tough love deck. Like if I need a kick in the butt, this is what I use for myself. Like, do you have a deck that's similar?
Yes, I do have one. I don't use it all the time. I do use it mostly on social media for like if I'm pulling a card.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody kind of got quite triggered on my Instagram, and when I posted it, they kind of commented and said, oh, do you need to swear? And I was like, well, sometimes, like we're all adults and we're all human. Sometimes you do need to use a swear word.
Oh,
but
that's that.
Yeah, a lot of
the Erin one. You said you wanted
that is on my wish list. That is,
it's a cool one. It's called Rebel Deck, the Oracle with Attitude. And a lot of it's like double-sided. So the people who are on, this is on YouTube as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll see us. Yeah, so there's like two sides to the card. So the first one here says, am I okay to swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah, we've already done it. So okay. It's so sorry.
Okay, don't believe in every shitty thought that you have. And then the opposite side says, thoughts can be sneaky, lying bastards. I feel like sometimes
that's true, and I needed to hear that, so I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. So that is a perfect deck for tough love for sure. It says zero filter, zero fucks, all fun.
Yeah. Well, you know what though, spirituality, I also like I've heard somebody else say this and I agree with it, that you know, being spiritual doesn't mean that we're all just, you know, lovey-dovey and we're not swearing or we're not you know, we don't have emotions or we can't react a certain way. And sometimes a good swear word is what you need for that day.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think people are adults and you can
Yeah, exactly. And I think it often says something about that person if they're triggered by that. I just think that's quite interesting. I don't know what you guys think of like if that triggers some kind of emotion in you.
I think and we were talking about like shadow and light, I think, Amy, earlier. And I think that's part of it, right? Some of your triggers are that can be that shadow side, but the shadow side is there to teach us. We're there to learn. And the light side,
it actually gives us power to tap into that, to not run away from it or be ashamed or embarrassed of the aspects of us that we don't like or we're embarrassed by, or painful memories. I feel personally that's where I have, you know, kind of taken the most power from. I think of it as like rocket fuel.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where you're going to get like really your messages and your clarity, I think.
Yeah.
The things that aren't always familiar.
Yeah,
right.
I think so too.
Because I think the light side might be like the things that we know about ourselves and we're comfortable with, and it's part of us and we own it. So it's like a comfort zone in a way.
And if you never push out of that comfort zone, you don't know what's on the other side, do you really?
There's discomfort in growth, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a saying.
It's a new one.
But Emily, I'm really curious because I don't think I've asked you this before. And so maybe we can talk about how you got started in tarot. How long have you been doing this? Have you been doing this for quite a few years now?
So I've been doing it for a couple of years, like doing readings for people, but I actually bought a deck. So I studied as an actor in London. I did a course at a drama school, and one of the parts that I was given was this character in Blythe Spirit. I don't know if you know Blythe Spirit.
No.
It's like a play about a woman who's basically been haunted by her husband's ex-wife, and she calls in this psychic medium who is a bit eccentric and a bit crazy. And I was like, right, okay, I need some kind of props to play around with for the rehearsals, and like, what would my character have? And I was like, well, tarot cards. I feel like they'd have some tarot cards. So I went into this shop and got these cards, and I played around with them, but I never really like used them that much. It was more for a character study. And I think I bought the wrong tarot cards to start off with. I've got them here, I think. They're called Tarot of Marseille.
Okay.
Somewhere in the back there.
Yeah.
But they're very notoriously very difficult to read because it's not like how if anybody on here has got like the Rider-Waite tarot deck, they have very clear images. It's very well illustrated. You can read it very intuitively, whereas that deck that I got, the pictures were just like 10 pentacles, 8 pentacles. There was no like imagery and people on them and symbols. Like it was just that, and I thought that was how you read tarot. I thought that was just what it was, so I never delved that much into it. And then just recently, well, it was like the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing a course in meditation and yoga, and a lady on there was doing tarot, and she said, oh, have you got a tarot deck yourself? I said, well, I do, but I don't really know what I'm doing with it. And she was like, right, well, to start off with, you might want to get the Rider-Waite tarot deck, because that's a bit simpler to understand. I'll give you this technique, off you go, see if you like it. And I literally just flew straight away, like, and I remember someone messaging me and saying, oh, do you know any tarot readers? And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I've just started to learn tarot, but I'm not really ready to give anyone a reading yet. Like, I don't know if it'd be any good. And she was like, no, I'd like you to give me a reading. So I was almost like shoved into it. Like there were all these signs that kept coming over the years that this was what I was meant to be doing. And I said to her, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it, but you don't have to pay me. And she was like, no, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you for your time. And it just kind of
that.
It was like all the spirit guides were pushing me in this direction to be like, you need to be doing this. You need to be paid. And
I mean, you got rolled that it was a psychic medium.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get much more clear, right? Like, wow.
I know.
Yeah,
and I was always the kind of spiritual one at school as well, because I was so interested in like ghosts and spirits, and like that was always something that I was very much connected to. And I'm sure that my first flat had a ghost in it. And there was loads of stuff that happened, but it's a very long story.
Maybe we can, I don't know how much time you got, but I would definitely
I'll be here
at some point like to hear those. Wow. Well, I think we all would have been really good school friends.
Yeah. When you were talking, it reminded me of my first deck that I ever bought. I also didn't resonate with it. A lot of people love it. It's called the Wild Unknown Tarot.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
It's the first one I ever bought, and I never use it because I don't resonate with it. Like these are kind of like what the cards look like.
Yeah, well, they're interesting. They look quite cool, but
I just don't. There's just something about it. I think that's important too. Like you may not resonate with every deck.
Did you pick it yourself?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because somebody else picked that deck for me in the shop. I said to the guy, I was like, okay, I'm playing this character and it's in the 1920s or something. What deck would they have used? And he said, oh, probably this one. So yeah, definitely go with what you want rather than
what the store.
I just didn't know what I wanted. I think I went on Amazon. It was like bestseller, and I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't really. Yeah, it must be good, and a lot of people love it, right? I just don't.
Yeah.
And it's actually what put me off tarot for a long time. So I bought this and I was just like, no, I think tarot's too much for me. I don't think it's for me. And then I went to Oracle, and for years I only read Oracle. And so it's just been in the last year that I've been starting to read tarot. Because I realized it was just the deck didn't resonate with me, not the whole system.
Not the whole system.
Because I find tarot quite intuitive, actually, more so than I thought.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know about you personally, but for me, I was like, I can't memorize like all of these meanings and the reversals. Like that's crazy. But you don't have to. I think some people
you don't
have to.
Yeah, no, you don't. And like the first readings that I gave for the first few months, really, I was picking the cards, and then I'd go and look at the meaning online, and I'd read through the meaning with them, and then I'd intuitively talk about what I'm seeing as well. So I think people don't realize that at the beginning it's okay to not be perfect. Like the person who's receiving the reading, as long as they get the message, as long as they resonate with what you're saying, like it doesn't really matter how long it takes or whether you need to check a meaning or not. It takes time. And like I had like little prompts on I had like a little magnet board on my desk, and I'd put little prompts up there and stuff to remind me what the swords mean, what the cups mean. So I feel like you don't have to be like, right, now I am a tarot reader, now I know exactly how to do it. It's like it takes time. As I'm sure it does with mediumship as well. It's like it's not a quick fix of like, now I am this perfect person.
Absolutely not. And I actually don't think that there is ever going to be such a thing as a perfect medium. And I don't think it's a reasonable aspiration for anybody. I think we constantly grow and evolve, because I think that spirit usually uses our kind of life experiences, right? And so the more we have, the more we grow, the more that we do things, the more we have to put into those.
The more knowledge.
I think sometimes we just don't, maybe we wouldn't totally understand what something meant if we hadn't experienced it too. Like, I don't know. And Erin and I have seen that come up in readings where, like, because I often say that spirit uses the medium's frame of reference, right? And that came up with a past episode where we did the live reading.
Absolutely.
With the My Girl reference, where she got the glasses, she connected to the brother, but I had the My Girl reference. So I was able to go, oh, wait a second, this is what he's showing me. She didn't know what that was because she hadn't seen it. So I truly believe that spirit picks a reader as well.
Do you see the images too, Emily? Like, do you intuitively, like, how does it, I mean, because I'm assuming, just because from others that I've spoken with, that it is all like thought and energy. And so do you get an image in your mind's eye in association with that tarot card, or does like it kind of make you think back to an experience maybe you had with it?
Yeah, or sometimes I'll just have like what feels like a random thought, and it's not ever like visual. I don't ever see it, but it'll just be like, I don't know, it'll be so random. Yeah. And I'm getting this quite a lot recently, and it's happened in a few readings where it's felt like somebody's like coming round my shoulder here, like to peek round. And I'll ask the person, I'll say, right, is this someone who's recently passed in spirit, or is this somebody who's around you quite a lot? And a lot of the time it'll be a very recent passing of somebody who's curious about that sort of thing as well. I'll say, you know, is it grandma, whatever, and often they'll be the people that are curious about it, so they're just popping in to be like, oh hi, like, what are you doing?
Well, there
like,
you go, you're a medium too.
What is this? This doesn't surprise me at all, because when I connected to Emily the first time and I gave her a reading, that came through, and I was like, baby medium, you are a medium. Like, I hope that's okay to share, but I definitely felt that from her immediately, and that it would come. And it's almost like tarot is an introduction to it, and then, which it often is for people, you know.
That's how it was for me, I think. I just get really scared. Like, I'm such a wuss. Like, it is. It can't. Well, I mean, it's not. I guess it's not super scary, but it can be if you're unfamiliar with it, right?
Yeah.
I gave a reading. I'm only saying this because when you said peeking out, like popping out, I literally gave a reading yesterday, and this doesn't often happen. But it was like I was like cleaning, which for me is like a way to clear my space and to get ready energetically. So when I put that out there energy wise, I feel like it does that for me. It clears the space. And so I literally thought I saw somebody, I thought it was Alex. I thought it was my partner coming in from the kitchen to the living room, where I was, but it wasn't. There was nobody there. And so like this whole shadows at the corner of my eye, like very, I think sometimes
it can be
it could be,
unnerving.
and so it was a little unnerving because I was like, a bit scared, a bit not scared. I wasn't super scared, but you were a little bit.
It's just a surprise. It's
surprised.
like, oh, I didn't know you were popping in, but hello, nice to
Oh,
see you.
hello. Okay. All right. Didn't know you were coming in this way, but it's cool. It's all good. Yeah.
And it couldn't be a creepier way of coming around my shoulder and
coming around your shoulder.
Yeah. I think they like playing with me though. I think it
100%. But if you were a spirit, I would be the same way.
I would be the worst. I'd be so mischievous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've often told my friends I'm going to come back and haunt them. just so they can
fool around with them.
Just fool around with them.
Yeah. I often think of like, I often explain this to people. Sometimes I'll give this image of like, I say you're like a bird's eye view of a town, and it's nighttime, and most people have their lights off, but there's a few people that have their porch light on. And I often say like this, I feel like this is how our loved ones or spirit in general kind of view people that are open this way, that are energy sensitive and that can perceive them. And it's not to say that they're not around everyone, because I do believe that they are, but I believe they go to the ones with the lights on because we're going to hear them, or we're going to feel them or perceive them in some way. And so to me, I just feel like that's because you're open, and they're like, oh, she's talking to Emily. This is my in, like I can say hello. That's how I feel like that is. Because I don't think that happens to like every tarot reader, maybe.
No, and it doesn't happen with every reading. Doesn't happen with every reading. It'll be very random, and I always feel called to tell them that. Absolutely. Whether they believe in spirits or not, I always feel the need to tell them. So yeah, I think it's pretty special when it does happen.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Because people might go, like it gives pause for thought. There's time for reflection. Like, how would she know that? Like, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're meant to like force anything on anybody. I think that everybody kind of like comes to their own understanding. They're meant to.
Yeah, and Emily, I'm sure it's similar for you, but every reading is similar, but very, very different.
Yes.
Just in terms of how the messages come through or what's being shared. Every reading is so different.
Yeah. I've started doing a lot of pre-recorded readings at the moment, which I'm actually really enjoying doing, because it gives me the space to go, okay, am I ready to give this reading? Because let's face it, like not every day do you feel like switched on. Like some days you might feel better than others. So if I know that somebody said, okay, I've booked this reading and I've got 3 or 4 days to get it recorded, I know I can be at my best in order to do that reading. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment as well, and just taking things a little bit more gently.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what do you offer? So what do you have like categories of like services that you offer? Might be interesting for folks to, I mean, of course, everybody can check out Emily's website and Instagram and social media page. But do you have different, do you have different like categories, or how do people book?
Yeah, so basically, if you go to my website, you'll see I do 3 different types of readings. At the moment, I'm not doing any live readings because I felt like when I first started doing them, when the pandemic happened, I had so much time and I wasn't at work at that time. So I had just so much time to do all these live readings. Now the pre-recorded just fits in better. And actually, I feel like they work pretty much the same because I'm still connecting with spirit.
Yeah.
They can still ask the questions beforehand, so I know exactly what they're looking for at the beginning. It cuts out all the chat, so I feel like actually you get more of a reading as well, because there's actually more time. We're not just kind of chatting about, hi, how are you, how's the weather, blah blah blah. You just get on with it straight away. So I'm just doing those, and I also do email readings as well, which are quite good. for people that maybe are not able to watch a video for whatever reason, or they like to read things in that kind of format and have all the photographs. I had someone email me actually who she was blind. So she wouldn't have been able to watch the video and see any captions. So if she'd have missed something of what I said, it just wouldn't have worked. I think there was somebody actually contacted me who was deaf as well. And I was like, well, if I do
was
it in
going
an
to
email
say, how
format,
accessible. I think that's a really, really, really good idea. You're making it very accessible.
Yeah, it wasn't something I'd thought about until those two people contacted me. And I was like, actually, why am I not making this simpler for,
I think that's
for
beautiful.
people with those needs? Yeah. Because they're still entitled to have a reading as much as anybody else is. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Can I ask, how did you get started with tarot? So you mentioned the pandemic. So is that kind of what spurred it? Like, oh, I have time for this and I've got this deck sitting here. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I wasn't at work, and I was literally just had all of this time, morning till night. The weather was beautiful outside as well, so I was like just laying out in the garden all day, and I was like, I need an activity, I need something to do. And I just started to learn tarot. So I put little prompts up for myself, and the lady who gave me the technique gave me the numbers 1 to 10, and she said, right, this is the fool's journey, so we're working our way through this fool's journey. So number 1 represents the spark of something, it's the beginning. The number 2 is about connecting to your intuition. Number 3 is the creation, and we're birthing that thing. And it's like it tells a story. So that's kind of how I started with it. And then just reading for myself constantly. So I was just reading for myself like every day. I'd pull cards for myself every day. And then it was my friend who contacted me. Right. Who said, I'm looking for a tarot reader, and that's how it all kind of came about.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit before. I just wondered if there was like more of the story. And so you said you took a class as well. Is that something you did at the beginning?
It was like, so she'd do us like a weekly like angel card reading, oracle card reading. So she did us like a yearly, she kind of gave me the idea for like a 12-month forecast. I realized I didn't answer your question about what services I just skipped
no,
over
that's
all
okay. That's okay. We'll go back to it. It's obviously it's not that important, so it's all good.
My airfine brain is just like so many things going on. So I offer, basically this is how I kind of worked out what I should be offering through my lovely friend Linda. So she did us like a 12-month forecast at the time when we were kind of having the weekly readings. So how I formatted my readings is I have a quite a short reading, which is about 20 minutes, which is just usually about 3 cards, if not a few more, just to kind of clarify what we're looking at. And then I'll do a general reading, which is normally about 10 cards, but again, I pull extra to clarify things. And then I'll do a 12-month forecast for people that are like really into it and really want like the full hour, and we'll go through each month individually for the next 12 months. And
that's what I did.
And that's great because people do really come back to you like at the end of the year and go, oh my god, I got this, I got that job I always wanted. I have knowingly become somebody who is good at giving fertility readings for some reason as well. But a lot of people come back to me telling me that they've fallen pregnant, and like people who are trying for babies are seeing like good things happening. So like I don't know how that's happened, and it's something I often steer away from. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it's something that I find quite difficult to give a reading on, because I don't want to give anybody false hope, and I don't want to trigger anyone or make anyone feel a sort of way. But it seems to be something that's a pattern that's happening at the moment, where I keep getting messages from women who've suddenly become pregnant after a reading with me. So
I think there's something to that, because I've noticed patterns in my work as well. So babies are one thing for me as well. Whenever a baby kind of comes through as a future thing, I think it's happened maybe like 14, 15 times now over the last couple of years. Just happened the other night, actually. Every single time, other than this most recent one, they've come back. So you were right. So there's something with that as well. So I used to shy away as well. I'm like, oh, but I try to say it as tactfully and open as possible.
Yeah.
But I shy away. I used to shy away from all health related questions. I didn't even want people to ask them. But what started to happen for me, and it sounds like maybe for you too, because it almost sounds like maybe you had a boundary, like, I don't know how to say this stuff about babies and fertilities because of these reasons. Like, don't give me this, but they give it to you anyway. So I feel like there's something there, right? Like maybe it's just something special with you that you are like, especially, I don't know, like gifted in knowing, like, I don't know. But for me, like now when I get, I still got health stuff all the time. Even when I was like, no, don't give it to me, I get it anyways. And I realized that my perspective had to change. And it wasn't necessarily because I was thinking of it like, well, I'm not a doctor. Like, I don't want to give somebody, like, I'm not diagnosing them. I don't want to make them freaked out. Like, I don't want to tell them something that they don't want to hear. And my perspective had to change. So it was more about like something that maybe the person is already planning or thinking about or anticipating.
Yeah.
So that's what comes in when health things comes in. It's almost like I get a vision of a cutout doll, like the shape of a body, and then a certain area of the body will be like glowing. And I'll just like, hey, do you have a problem with this? And they'll be like, yes. And it's never like to diagnose or scare or warn.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and a lot of the time it's not a surprise as well.
No, that's
like,
what I
it's
mean.
not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
No. So maybe, I don't know, there's something there. Because I find those patterns come all the time from spirit. Like even human design, which we're going to talk about next week. Human design is something that I was just like casually learning. And then like it was maybe once a week. I'd be like, so are you a generator or do you blah, blah, blah? And they'd be like, what? I'm like, where's this coming from? And I realized it's like spirit leading you the breadcrumbs, right? So it sounds like maybe there's that there for you too.
Yeah. And I think spirit will never reveal anything that is not it's not the right time for you to hear it. You know, I trust in spirit enough to know that I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna hurt them or upset them, I hope.
Something I'm curious about. So if somebody comes to you with like a specific question, like a yes or no question, and am I going to marry this guy? Or like whatever it is. Do you ever just get like crickets? Like I know you're pulling a card, so you're getting some sort of message, but do you ever like kind of get nothing intuitively? Because I do that sometimes and I always go, I think we're not meant to know about this right now.
Yeah. Or the card will be nothing to do with that question that they ask. So I often find it hard because I'm like, I don't want to keep pressing. I don't want to keep pulling cards because I feel like that's going to make you, not only you more muddled, but it's confusing spirit as well. Because it's like, well, what kind of answer do you want? You're not going to get one right now because it's not the right time to know. So yeah, I do get that sometimes, and I feel that twinge in my stomach as well, of like, I shouldn't be delving in this, I shouldn't be talking about this yet. So I do find sometimes I have to say, you know, this is what you're going to get for now, and we can't keep pressing.
Yeah,
Erin and I have talked about that too. It's like sometimes it's not like they can give us a guidebook because they can give us, you know, direction at times, but they can't tell us everything because then what would be the point of this journey that we're on? We need to grow.
We need to learn. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
They're more than happy to help with guidance. I love how like how much of an intuitive reader you are.
Yeah, I would say, Emily, you're very, very intuitive.
Very intuitive.
I think definitely the mediumship abilities are waiting to be unfurled, but I need to get past the fear factor.
Probably a bit of fear, but I also really believe in divine timing. So I believe that it happens when it's meant to, and I think it's almost like they're just warming you up a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
When it's time you'll go. Because I've had readings with other tarot readers and you know, great readers, but not as intuitive as you. Not everybody is as, because I think I said that to you when we had our reading and you did a tarot reading for me, that I found like you were channeling during it. And I don't know if everybody does it the same. I think there's a bit of channeling in all readings, but you were just more.
I think everyone's different, I think, and it's like finding the right one for you. Like I know that you say this a lot, you know, you've got to find the right medium for you. And sometimes the reading won't hit, and it's like because it wasn't meant, you're not the perfect match. And I have had readings in the past where I've thought, oh, this is not going very well, or I don't know if we're right for each other, and that's absolutely fine. That they came to me for whatever reason, and actually a lot of the time, sometimes at the end of the reading they'll be like, that was great, and I'm like, was it really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, good, very good. So yeah, it's I think the right people will find you for sure.
Yeah, because it definitely sounds like, Emily, just from hearing you speak, that you do read more intuitively, because I know a lot of other readers, it's like, these are the tarot rules, this is what I kind of go by, this means this means this, this means this.
Yeah, because it can be, especially at the beginning, it's very black and white. Like it's very much like, here are the meanings, and like when I was looking them up and stuff as I was reading to people, I found myself reading it and then kind of going off on a tangent, especially if you get card combinations. You need to change it a little bit. You need to be a bit more dynamic in order to read it as a bigger picture. So I find that's something I'm learning, though, to be honest, over time. So I've been doing this nearly 2 years now.
And the learning never stops.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm constantly learning how spirit communicates and talks, and I think it's always evolving and it's forever changing, and what I thought was this meaning one day is now not this meaning today. It's now this. It means this. So it's it definitely, I feel like any like intuitive requires that flow or that flexibility, that adaptability to just kind of go with it.
I'm excited to see where things go in the future, of like where my intuitive abilities will be in 20 years time. Like I don't know, I might be a mystic out in the woods somewhere, like like the hermit card.
You can find Emily in the woods.
We're in the woods.
But what would you tell people who are interested, Emily, like who want to start in tarot? What would like your advice be to them? Like, how can they get started?
Well, follow my Instagram for a start. You don't have to. So I'd just say, first of all, get the Rider-Waite tarot deck. Because it's the best deck to start off with. And then maybe get like a tarot guidebook. I found Biddy Tarot really useful. They've got really useful
I've got
one too.
They're really good. They do one that's like
this is my favorite one. Tina Gong. I recommend
that's a good
to many people. I really like it. It's like
that's very detailed.
I love that. I think you have to go through those early stages of actually just looking at the meanings and really getting into that to start off with. Some people like to just read intuitively, but I do feel like you need to have a sort of some sort of foundation to start off with. So I had the Biddy Tarot workbook, and it's got like space for you to write in it as well, which I think is really helpful, to write down your own version of what that card means to you, because then you can become more intuitive. So get the Rider-Waite, get the guidebook, and then just start reading for people. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It doesn't matter if it's like, if you're searching for the meanings every 2 minutes. It really doesn't matter. Just read for loads and loads of people and see what happens. So just
great advice. Well, I would say the same thing.
I think, Erin, like that's what I did. I did practice readings for like months and months and months before I was ready. And it's funny, I had a similar story where somebody was like, no, you need to be paid, and like sent me money, right? And the same kind of thing. It's almost like, okay, that's my sign that I'm ready for this, and that I can call myself a professional and ask to be paid for it. Sometimes that stuff comes from other people, right? Where they're like, no, because otherwise, I don't know about you, but I would have sat on that forever, and I would have probably continued to do practice readings until that, whenever that magical moment was that I felt confident. Who knows when that would have been? Because we're always going to be in our head.
Well, and I think we're all just really giving people, like, that was it for me. Like, I felt so in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I want to charge. What should I charge? What is like but it's all energy work, right? Like, it's still
there needs to be an energy exchange, and whether that, like whether that's, you know, whatever monetary that is, but it's hard, isn't it? Because I feel like when you work in this sort of field, you don't know. I often felt like, should I be accepting money for this? But like you say, it is an energy exchange, and I'm putting so much energy into this. It actually really tires me out doing even just one reading a day.
Well, and somebody also
tiring.
There's a lot of shadow, I feel too. Sorry to interrupt you. I think we're
no.
At the same time. There's a lot of shadow, you know, kind of around this kind of work and being paid anyways. I think in general in society, I think we're getting out of that. But I know I've actually seen so many people in different like groups, Facebook groups, like online groups, where they have this argument. Like, should we be paid? And there's so many people that they'll do the work and they're like, no, but I was taught like we should never be paid for this. It's a gift. And I'm like, so is an artist. So is somebody that can cut your hair. So is this. So is a singer. But they're getting paid, right? Like, what's the difference? I don't see it that way.
No, I don't.
But
well, there's also other work you're uploading things, right? We're trying to do Instagram. You do a lot of prep. You like I like record the readings and send it out to people. There's stuff like that. Like that also a little bit time consuming. You do email readings, so it's
and for people to take it seriously as well, like to come to a reading and be like, right, I've spent money on this and I want to, you know, pay attention and turn up on time and all of those things. Like I feel like if there isn't any money exchange, it doesn't always feel so important to people. So
I've heard that from many people, like people that, you know, that mentor and have been doing this work for a long time. They're like, people equate value with money. They just do. Think about like your old like $5 Walmart purse versus this like leather $500 purse that somebody gave you. You're gonna like really treat that thing well, because we equate value with money. So, you know, if you're paying for a quality reading, you expect quality, and I think that you receive it because the balance energetically, it's balanced. It's not like this. Because I know for me, like when I started doing readings and I was charging like $25, but you know, putting hours into something, because I started with email readings too, it was not balanced. So I started to I was like, oh, I gotta do that today. Oh, you know, and I don't want to feel that way about my work, but that's what happened. I don't feel that way because I definitely feel balanced now.
And then you don't have to do quite as many as well, because you're getting what you're worth.
So so you have that more time in between, because I think that time in between is so important. The rest. That, you know, somebody who's sitting and doing like 8 hours of back-to-back readings, like
well, we were just talking about, you know, if you're not in a good, I think, and this is for any job or any position, you know, you have to be in a good energetic space. And if you're just not feeling it that day, or something's going on, like, you know, if I'm not feeling well, I'm going to reschedule that reading because I know I'm under the weather and I know I am just checked out. Right. So
and you can choose to do that because it's your business. You're your own boss. So
that's true. It's the beauty of that, right? We're very, very lucky and fortunate that way. I mean, I feel really lucky. I'm sure you guys feel lucky to have built that community with people where, you know, there's that automatic to trust, which is so meaningful.
Totally.
That's the good part. We were wondering, so last week and the week before, we talked a lot about spirit guides.
Oh, yeah.
I know you just talked about like maybe like somebody popping on in, and we know that you're such an intuitive reader. So I know this might be a little off topic, but do you have any experience with that? Like, have you ever connected to somebody else or anything like that in a reading? Hey everyone, it's Amy Brookes here, one of your co-hosts of Soul Rising. This is the end of episode 16. We decided to make it a two-parter. So we left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger where Emily was asked if she has any experiences connecting to her own spirit guides, and we left it at that cliffhanger. I hope that you'll join us next week where we continue the chat about tarot, hear the answer to my question to Emily about spirit guides, and also give a 3-way blended energy forecast for the next week or two. Stay tuned for episode 16. Bye, guys.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.